Hello, all you awesome people out there, and welcome or welcome back to Geek Visions Entertainment and me, your host, Hoover, as always. And we are continuing on with Dragon Age Month, leading up to the reveal, not the reveal, but the release of Dragon Age: The Veilguard coming on the 31st of this month. So, if you haven't already, please, if you can, I ask if you can, please go check out the previous video where I voiced some of my concerns and worrying that the Veil Guard could possibly be BioWare's last chance. There's a lot of things to go on, and if things don't go right, BioWare could be enter into like Ubisoft levels of trouble. So, I voiced all that in that video. But anywho, for this episode, we are going to start. This is going to be a two-parter, so this is going to be part one. But we are going to tier list all of the main quests of all three Dragon Age games, um, plus the Awakening expansion, and of course the DLCs for two and Inquisition at the very least. I decided not to do every DLC for Origins, mostly because it was going to be long enough doing the main game, and I figured Awakening is the only one that really has, um, is probably the biggest and most important DLC there. I didn't do Witch Hunt either, even though Witch Hunt is kind of important. But let's be honest, it really only hits if you're romancing Morgan. If you aren't, then it kind of, it kind of don't mean it and equals up to that much. So yeah, so no Warden's Keep, no Return to Ostagar, no Stone Prisoner, no Witch Hunt, but we do have Awakening, all the main quests of Awakening in here. So we do have that at least. So yeah, so for what we're ranking, every main mission. So unfortunately, no companion based missions, no side missions, even though some of them are pretty important. No missions to do with our companions. If I just said that, I'm sorry. But yeah, none of that stuff here. Just the main quest lines. Um, Origins and Inquisition were very easy to do. It was two where things kind of got a little gray and a little iffy. So mostly for two, but I do kind of have it for Inquisition and Origins as well. But for some missions, we're kind of gonna wrap them all into one instead of each individual main quest line. If they all play a role in a bigger overarching narrative, we'll just roll them all together and kind of count that as one quest, as opposed to me having to talk about, oh, let's rank the quest where you have to arrive in Ostagar and talk to everybody. Or then we got to rank the quest where we venture into the Kakari Wilds. And then the one where you got to talk to Morgan. No, I didn't do all that. That's all just rolled into one overarching quest that I have here. So that's what I got for you. So yeah, so this one is going to start with everything for Origins, all our quest lines for Awakening, and then the first quest for Act 1 of Dragon Age 2. And then, of course, we'll come back for part 2. We'll finish off Acts 2 and 3, plus the DLCs for Dragon Age 2, and then everything for Inquisition. It was very easy because Inquisition has like the shortest amount of main quests. So that made it pretty easy. But anywho, enough talk. Let's get right into this, shall we? Hopefully, I'll remember everything based off the damn pictures, but we'll see. All right. So we start off, of course, with Origins. And with Origins, that, of course, means we have origin stories. So we have all of the origin stories here, and we're going to rank them up. First off, we have Human Noble origin story. Of course, if you're a human and you're not a mage, you'll get this one as your soul one. Now, for human or I'm gonna rank this in the A tier. Um, the human noble origin story is actually really good. It's very intriguing. It sets the stage with everything with like your brother and your father heading off to Ostagar to help out with the battle. You get left behind. Arl Howe gets involved and he kind of betrays the family. and you kind of fight your way out. Your mom and your dad sacrifice themselves to allow you to escape. And it's really cool. It's really dope. I feel like it's the human origin story really gives a lot more to Oral Howe, who, if you didn't play that, he's kind of just there. He just seems like Logain's lackey, his right hand man. And then you have the encounter with him in the dinner room section, um, and you kill him. It kind of doesn't hold weight when you do it with anybody else that's not this origin story. But if you're a human noble, it comes back around full circle as you can finally enact your revenge on Orahao. And his final line makes so much more sense as human noble too, with this whole what do you say? I deserved more or something. So yeah, the human noble story is very, very good. Um if y'all been watching my walkthrough, y'all already know I talked about this before. I'm not gonna be super biased because I throw this an S. Honestly. I really would. I feel like I should. Fuck it, I am. The city elf origin story. The my favorite one. I feel like it's the best one. Also, this is just this entire list is just my opinion. Nothing here is fact. Everything here could be debatable. This is just my personal rankings. I'm not saying these are the clear cut best ones. And if you don't agree, you know, f you. I ain't saying. I'm not saying that. It's just my personal favorites and kind of where I would rank them. But yeah, I love the city elf origin. Um, I've talked about it earlier how the city elves definitely have a major reflection on African Americans, and I equate that super easily. The whole thing of just small, close knit community. You're getting ready to have this wedding. Your character is getting pushed off to an arranged marriage. Humans arrive, and this is the coolest thing I feel about this origin story is how I believe it's actually it is. There's some changes. It's the only one that has a clear cut branch depending on the gender you pick. Every other origin story, some dialogue or things kind of changed if you're male or female, of course. But this is the only one where it's a clear difference between a male and female. Because with the arranged marriage, humans arrive and they take all of the elf women, all of the brides to be, or any elf women in the crowd, and he takes and he kidnaps them. And that's where the split happens. Where if you're a male, now you're venturing into the castle to free them. But if you're a female, you're one of the ones captured, and you have to rally the other women and fight your way out. So I find that just an extremely cool thing. Um, of course, every origin, I should have mentioned this in a human origin story. Every origin story ends with Duncan arriving and basically saving you from whatever fate your origin story has for you. He saves you and scripts you into the Grey Wardens, and you go off there. So while your elf is on the verge of being killed because you did kill the son of a noble, and you are an elf, so they don't give a damn. Uh, Duncan is able to conscript you, and now you're escaped from the clutches of the law as now you're a Grey Warden. So that's cool there. And in the human noble story, it's like you escape from the castle and you meet up with. I believe he's there actually, and he helps you escape as your mother and father stay behind to buy you time. So you just lost your home, but he gives you some a sanctuary by having you go into the Grey Wardens. All right, next up is the Dalish elf origin story, and I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of basic. It's it's pretty cool. I understand a lot of people like this one. Um, to my from my optics, a lot of the women, a lot of women gamers seem to like the Dalish origin story because there's kind of like a very subtle, no words actually spoken kind of love story in there. Where basically it's you and an elder friend of yours named Tamlin. You guys find the Alluvians, which I will give credit for. It's the first instance to debut Alluvians into Dragon Age with this origin story. So if you didn't play this origin story, you really didn't know about them until they came around in Dragon Age 2. But yeah, your friend, you mess with the mirror, something happens. Him, Tamlin, he goes missing. They find you, but you're hurt, but they're able to save you. Of course, it's the Darkspawn taint that's affecting you. But they're able to save you. But you go looking for Tamlin, you can't find them. It's been like 3 days. So they kind of, Duncan's there and he writes them up. He's like, being affected by the Darkspawn taint for 3 days with no actual care, he's probably gone. But in order to help you, he conscripts you to the Grey Wardens, and there you go. Um, a cool thing about every origin story. I mentioned this again in my walkthrough. Tamlin does come back around. Uh, in the section where your camp gets attacked by Darkspawn and Shrieks, he's one of the Shrieks there. Um, and he speaks to you. He says it's too far gone. He attacks you. He claims that if you're a woman, he claims that he loves you. By the way, that's what I meant by like the love story thing. It's if you're a female elf, you there seems to be like a little some unadmitted feelings between your character and Tamlin there. So, but overall, it's okay. It's not a lot. I feel like it's not too much going on there because this one, especially more than the city elf, really goes more into like uh the history of the elves and the suffrage they've kind of suffered in their entire history. I mentioned it before. The Dalish elves are basically the Dalish elves are basically hoteps. That's what they, that's what they that's what they really are. I mean, like the first instance, like some humans mistakenly stumble their way into the outskirts of the camp, and Tamlin's just immediately ready to off them. So it's like, what the fuck, bro? Chill out, calm down. So that's that. Next up we have the mage origin story, human or elf. You wind up here, which I thought is interesting that if you're a mage elf, Dalish also isn't available for you, but whatever. That's cool. Um, I'm also kind of gonna mark this a C. It's really cool. You get to see like the the life of a mage within the circle. I think you like finish like a graduation ceremony where you finally get like you like graduate up to like a senior member of the circle. But your friend Jowin, he's worried he's gonna fail. And if you fail, you either get possessed by a demon or they make you tranquil, and he kind of doesn't like either one of those options. So you have to help him escape. He gets his phylactery, which is the blood they use to track mages if they run away. You get it, you destroy it, but once you leave it, of course, you get caught. Jowin turns out he is a blood mage, which was a big rumor going on that he's practicing blood magic, which is also why he was afraid that Templars would kill him outright because of that rumor. But of course, it turned out to be true. It's not a rumor. It was it was real. And he escapes. You kind of take the blame. You get set up as the fall guy, but of course Duncan arrives, and you know what happens there. So yeah, Jarwin does come back around, mostly in the Redcliffe story. He's the mage who poisoned the Arl. Um, but due to the amount of options there, Jawa can either be pretty important or not important at all to what happens at the end of that quest. So yeah, but overall, there's not too much happening in the mage origin story. I mean, you help out Jowan, then you get set up as the fall guy, and that's basically it. So not too much popping off there for me for the mage origin story. All right, and next we have the dwarf commoner, and this one is pretty solid actually. I'm gonna put that in the B tier. Um, basically, dwarves have a very backwards, very old school, very broken system of classism. And in this one, you're one of the lower people, casteless they call them. So you basically are part of the dwarven mafia. You're part of the dwarven mafia there. Some shit goes wrong yet again. In a lot of these, I just realized in a lot of these, you kind of set up as the fall guy and some shit. This is true in the other dwarven story too. You get set up as the fall guy. I think you imitate somebody in a tournament, and it's like this big high honor, and the fact that a cashless won it is like blasphemy. But luckily, of course, Duncan arrives and he saves you, and that's that. I think it does a really good job of showing that castle system. It's very much in common with like the city elf. You know, you're sort of like a second class citizen in the eyes of society. So that's really cool. And then next, I don't want to spend too much talking about each of these individually. And next we have the Dwarf Noble storyline, and honestly, I'll put that in A tier because this one is really, really fun. Um, you're one of the king's three children, male or female, doesn't matter. The eldest is set up to be, of course, the next king, and then you, as the middle child, you're set up to be the next in line of like the what the heck they call it. You're basically like the lead war general, basically. And you're set up to be that. Unfortunately, the youngest brother, who of course being the youngest of three, doesn't have anything lined up for him like the oldest two. He sets up a massive ploy. He kills the older brother, makes you look like the the one who did it. I told you, there's a lot of Fall Guy stories in these origin stories. You're the one who's set up to make it look like you're the killer. Of course, they he bows off a bunch of people. You get tried as guilty, and unfortunately, you get hauled off to jail, where they then what do they do? They send you to the deep roads to die, basically. Fortunately, Duncan's there, saves you, whisks you off to be a Grey Warden. So a lot of Fall Guys, but I really like I like the whole twist of like it was the younger brother, and it comes back around in the Orzammar quest line because of course you try to pick the king, and the youngest kid, Balin, is the one who's supposed to be next in line. But of course, he has that stigma attached to him. Because there's a rumor that he's the one who killed the brother, and he's the one who set you up, which is of course true. Um, so it's really interesting once you get there, and it's like, well, how do you play it now? Do you support Harrowmont in direct opposition for your brother, or do you somehow help out your brother, despite the fact that he stabbed you in the back and stabbed your older one in the back, literally before? So it really introduces an interesting dilemma too. Um, yeah. So these are what I rank the origin stories are. If I was being unbiased, which I kind of am, I'm not gonna lie, this would be an A tier as well. But yeah, like to me, it's like, is there is there an interesting story in that very short amount of time? And I feel like these have the most interesting stories. Um, the most interesting like environments. Um, Again, I don't dislike the Dalish Mage or the Dalish or the Mage origin story. I just feel like overall, there's not much going on there as opposed as there is to the other ones. All right, and then from there we get into our actual main storyline quest. So this one, basically everything wrapped into one. Arriving at Ostagar, undertaking the joining, officially becoming a Great Warden, and then of course the Battle of Ostagar, the Tower of Ashal mission, and everything to do with that. And honestly, um, I'm kind of torn. I feel like I want to say S tier because the Battle of Ostagar stuff is so damn good. But at the same time, it's like, and also like the joining is dope to finally actually see that. But then it's like the Kakari Wilds mission is kind of lame, even though it does introduce us to Morgan. It's like go in here, kill some Darkspawn, get their blood, find these treaties. That's about it. The Tower of Ashal mission is also kind of whack. Like it's just Kama Tower, fight Darkspawn. It does give you your first ogre fight in it. So I feel like those kind of hold it back. I'm gonna say screw it. It's gonna put an S tier. It's the mission that really kind of sets everything off for the rest of the game. You officially become a Grey Warden. The Battle of Ostagar. I would advise everybody, if you haven't played Dragon Age, I would advise everybody to at least just watch that scene. Especially consider the fact that now there's most likely some mods that exist to upscale the graphics, upscale the video. There's like a 4K version out there. Just watch the Battle of Ostagar. It is handled extremely well. And then once you like light the fire and Logain's betrayal, leaving the people behind, Kaylin's death, Duncan realizing how like even though the fire is lit, there's no help coming. It's all done extremely well, and it does a really good job of setting up the rest of the game as we move forward. So I love it. But like I said, if this was just the Battle of Ostagar, it would be an S tier regardless. But I will admit the Kakari Wilds quest and the actual gameplay for the Tower of Ashal is kind of holds it back. Especially like the Tower of Ashal mission is literally just a precursor for the tower mission. You're literally doing the same thing. But I'll put it there. All right. After that, we have the Imperial Highway and the Lothering quest. It's the immediate quest after Morgan and Flemeth save you, and you finally set off. Take a quick pit stop here. Um, this one is gonna go in D tier. That's pretty easy. Not much happens here. It's really just to kind of act as like a chill out quest line after the big thing of Ostagar. You kind of see how the world's reacting to the loss of the battle, how the Darkspawn are about to start moving forward. You pick up two more companions here, Sten and Liliana, to kind of have some things to kind of teach you about like the skills you might have picked up before here, herbalism, poison making, and trap making. I think there are three people that require you to do something with those three. But yeah, overall, it ain't too much going on for that one. All right, moving on. We have the Redcliffe quest line. Again, this is everything from the initial Redcliffe. When you arrive at the village, turns out they're being harassed by demons and zombies. So you help out, fight a big battle against them, and that's it. I'm gonna put this one in B tier. It's a really good quest. It's pretty fun, but it's not as good as some of the other ones that are going to come later. Actually, one thing of that, we might drop that down to see. It's fun, but a lot of the quest lines later um, are much better. Actually, the quest line, which kind of acts as part two to this, is done way better than this one is. One of the biggest saving graces of this is the fact that it has a lot of choices to how it can end, depending on your choices as the player. Of course, it turns out that the Arl's son Connor is being possessed by a demon, so you got to figure out how do you deal with that. One choice is to just outright kill Connor, kill a kid. You can do that, and that'll stop everything. Or you can try to remove the demon itself, venture into the fade, and fight the demon. That you have two options. There's a blood ritual that will require Connor's mother to sacrifice herself to provide the blood for you to travel into the fade, or you can take a little time and sort of take a side trip to the circle tower to ask the mages for help. And we'll get to that next. So that's a really cool thing about it. But overall, it kind of just ain't really much going on here. Speaking of the mages, we have the circle tower and everything that happens there. We are going to give that a B tier. Um, Again, it's kind of just find a bunch of abominations and demons as you venture higher and higher in a tower of just like a big circle map. And you go up, you go through another circle, then you go up, go through another circle, then you go up, go through another circle. So it's kind of repetitive. Um, it does have a really cool thing though, where you encounter a demon and then it sends you into the fade. It's really cool the first time it happens. Upon replayability, it gets really tedious though. It gets extremely tedious. You got to venture to these different like islands, and you got to pick up a shape shifting form because the forms allow you to progress further through each island as there's obstacles. So you got to pick those up. They got to come back, go through another one, get further in it, pick up another form, go back to some other. It gets real tedious. Like I said, it was really cool the first time I played the game, and I was like, "Oh snap, this is dope." They send you to the fade. You got to do all this like puzzle finding out. It's like, okay, I can't venture here because I need this form, so I had to go back and backtrack. But once you replay it, it just gets very tedious and very repetitive. Kind of holds it back a little, to be honest. I ain't gonna lie. But lucky you finish it. And luckily, there is a really cool boss fight at the end of this. The guy who sort of led the whole thing of possession and shit. His boss fight is really cool, and it has a pretty dope mechanic in there, which you have to pick up the litany, which prevents him from changing mages into abominations. So it prevents you from having more ads to fight and save more mages, which is important if you plan on siding with the mages at the end of the quest. So yeah, and of course it has you either side with the mages and tell everybody everything's okay, or you side with the Templars and kill all the mages, and you be like possession it was too much, and you kill all the mages. So that's cool there. All right, next up you have what I said was part two of that Olive Redcliffe, and this is the Urn of Sacred Ashes mission. And honestly, I think that's going to go in an S tier. The Urn of Sacred Ashes is such a dope quest. That first entering into Haven, and they nailed just like the feel and the vibes of just like nothing in this little town seems right. Like something is like super off, and you can like investigate. It's like a kid singing some creepy song, walking around with a actual fucking finger bone in they in their pocket. You could like see an altar with like fresh blood in there or something. I think like you could like the shopkeeper has like a body hidden in the back of the shop. So it's like done really well. And then you venture to the temple, and it's a really cool environment. And then the trials are dope too. Dealing with like the guardian of Andraste, having to solve like the puzzles. Like I'm gonna be honest, most of the stuff in Dragon Age Origins, when they're able to think of something new and different, that everything isn't just a huge combat scenario, which again is not Dragon Age Origins' strongest point, is what I feel when it acts as the best. If it's not like the moment feeling like a big important moment for the combat, then it's at least like giving you some interesting stuff that kind of where you're not fighting, but it's still interesting, is what I mean. So yeah, the urn is synchronized. And of course, the end, you can poison the urn, which will put you at odds with some of your companions, notably Liliana, and win. You could actually kill Liliana here. Or you can just take it and be fine and have a nice dragon fight. An optimal dragon fight there. Also, those Reaver, that freaking Reaver dude is difficult as hell. I remember that. I do not like doing that. All right, moving on. We have a what's this? A paragon of her kind, with venturing into Orzammar and everything to do with Orzammar and the Deep Roads. And I'm somewhere between a B and a C. It's super interesting, but my goodness, is that gameplay loop annoying as hell. Venture into the deep. I'm gonna give it a C. Venture into the Deep Roads is so damn tedious. I like literally. I think one of my recent videos is me for my walkthrough of Dragon Age. Just me finishing up the Deep Roads. I took that mission on when I was way under leveled because I just wanted to get it out the way as soon as I possibly can. Because again, it's nice to finally get a lot on the doors and see their inner workings, and picking whose side you want to be on. And in the end, it cannot matter because you can still you can still pick the other guy at the very end. Um, Bronca and the Anvil of the Void, the fucking Brood Mother spot. We learn like what Brood Mothers are and how they're created and how screwed up it is. That's an awesome moment. The Anvil of the Void and its dark history is also really cool. If you bring Shale, you get another little interesting little side thing there too. So that's fun. But it's just the actual physical aspect of walking through the deep roads and fighting darkspawn so much gets extremely tedious. You'll notice anything that involves a massive amount of just walking and fighting is to me like the most tedious moments for the game. I love it, but my goodness, just walking and doing combat, it can get really tiring. It can get real tiring. All right, next up we have what's this called? The Beast Within. This is the Dalish Elf recruitment storyline. Um, S tier, S tier. This is great. This is fantastic. Uh, of the three missions that revolve, actually of the four missions, I mean, the four or the five you can say, getting the dwarves, getting the elves, uh, the Olive Redcliffe stuff, and the mages. This is the best one of all of those. It has a interesting location, so it's not you walking around in a circle all the time. There's some pretty cool side quests in there. I remember the thing with the tree that speaks in rhymes, and the freaking hermit, the weird hermit who like only answers you by asking questions. You have to ask a question to ask him a question, and vice versa and stuff. Um, all that is super fun. The little temple there. You finally get a new and interesting enemy type with the werewolves, who are annoying as fuck. Especially with that overwhelm move. I hate overwhelm so much. But you at least get a new enemy type with the werewolves. It's just really cool. And then like the whole mission is you go to recruit the elves, but they're being affected by a curse, a werewolf curse. And the leader Zathrian tells you that the only way you can reverse the curse and stop it is to kill the uh the alpha wolf, basically known as Witherfang, and take its heart. That's the only way you can heal us. So of course you gotta help him out. But as you play through the mission, you find out one that the werewolves are actually very intelligent, and they're like grouping up and strategizing, and they actually follow Witherfang as like a leader. But of course, once you progress through, you find out more important things that are going on. Most notably, the fact that Zathrian actually created Witherfang as a curse to humans, and all the werewolves are actually humans that have been cursed for centuries. Some stuff happened, like a love of Zathrian's was killed by humans. So him and his grief and his rage created the curse. But the most important thing is the fact that Zathrian and Witherfang exist as one. She's also known as the Lady of the Forest because she's a forest spirit or something. So they exist as one. So it's like um, one can't exist without the other or something. So basically, it comes down to you, and you have to pick which one you want. You either have to side with the werewolves and kill all the elves, stick with the original plan with Zathrian and kill the werewolves and Witherfang, and don't sort of reverse the curse on them, but help on the elves. Or if you can come to a compromise with both, allowing Zathrian to lift the curse. But of course, in doing that, he had to sacrifice himself and still have to, and Witherfang would also willingly sacrifice themselves too, as it frees the humans from the werewolf curse. So it's really cool and it's extremely well done. And like I said, I feel it's the best of those quest lines, which I feel like means, which means I think, damn, it's really good. Okay, you know what? In order to make my stand true, I will knock uh the Urn of Sacred Ashes to an A to keep Beast Within as an S. Because it is the best of all those main missions. All right, moving on. So after you wrap up all of those, you head to Denerim to prepare for what is called the Lands Meet, which is where all the lords and arls of all of the lands come together and they make a vote. And this is where you finally dispose of Logain. Now, I would like to put it in an S tier, but there are some mechanics that kind of make it weird. Granted, this is from me understanding. Yeah, fuck it. I love the Lansby. I love the Lansby. I was gonna say there's some mechanics that I remember looking at and watching videos of that held some people back from it, and it didn't allow them to fully experience a lot of the things, which I thought was weird because I've always been able to do extremely well in the lands meet. Even in my very first blind walkthrough, I did extremely well in the lands meet. I think the only thing I've missed was like the Ignacio stuff because I didn't do all the quests he gives you. But yeah, basically, when it comes to this, it kind of comes down to just like a math problem, which a lot of Bioware stuff tends to do early then. Um, so as you go around dinner room, you'll get a lot of side quests. Um, and you'll want to do these side quests because eventually some of them can come back around for here to help people sway your vote. Um, I think the biggest thing was Honora. A lot of people didn't like Honora, Logain's daughter. because she's very clearly trying to play the game for herself to come out on top. So a lot of people didn't vibe with that. So they didn't play nice with her. So when the lands meet came around, a lot of people weren't able to get her on their side. I think the first time now because there was another hidden mechanic in there. I think when I first played it, I stuck with her to be queen, but she was queen on her own. Because Alistair, there's a thing where you can wed her and Alistair because Alistair is of royal blood and does have a legit claim to the throne. He just doesn't want it. So I think my first time I played, I honored his wishes, so I made Honora queen. But there's a hidden mechanic within the origins during Alistair's personal quest where there's literally one piece of dialogue can sort of change his perception. They call the hardening, can change his perception on stuff. So if you do that and present the argument for him to wed Honora, so both camps can come together and make a stronger argument together, he'll be more for it. So that helps out too. But yeah, and of course, as most everything that I put fairly high, the variety of endings how this can go is dope. Like, is Honora queen on her own? Is Alistair king on his own? Are they together? Um, Is Alistair king? Is he still with the Grey Wardens, or did he walk off and leave because you kept Logain alive? Because you can keep Logain alive and have him undertake the joining. So did you kill him outright, or did you have him join the Grey Wardens? So it's all very cool stuff. And like I said, all the side quests you do can pop up, and you just help out people, expose all of Logain's dirty laundry to sway people against him. I love Volansme. I love it. I feel like it's done extremely well. I always liked it, even despite the fact that some people have issue. It just comes down to a simple math problem. I think you just need X amount of votes to win or something, or X amount of votes to lose. But that's neither here or there. All right, and next up we have the final battle, the Battle of Dinnerum, Battle of Ferelda. I'm gonna put that in A tier because it has one of my biggest gripes, and I don't want to be a hypocrite. As there's a lot of walking, there's literally nothing but walking and fighting in this. But they do some pretty interesting things here. Um, Most notably, they have the whole section where the companions you don't take to come with you personally, they'll like defend the gate, and you'll actually play a game section as those characters as they defend the gate. So I think that was pretty cool. Also, the archdemon fight is annoying as hell. Um, thank goodness for for a new version on current consoles, because I swear, as the game got older and the 360 got older, trying to play this on the original 360 version, my freaking game will crash so many times because there's always so much going on in the final battle. There's so much going on, so many things on screen. My game will crash so often. So thank goodness for newer consoles that are able to that are able to handle that. But yeah, it's fun. They capture the vibes very well. Like it feels like an actual ending to everything you've been doing so far. The mechanic of you can call in the allies of the people you've helped so far, be it werewolves or elves, um, dwarves, golems or no golems, templars, so they can all help you. And also you can also sort of level them up a little bit too by giving them I think each faction asks for something in your camp, and you can sort of donate supplies to them, and that'll help them sort of level up once you get to here. So it's fine, but like I said, it's a big gameplay loop. And then of course the endings for the epilogue. You know, Alistair could have been the one to kill the archdemon. You could be the one. Logain could be the one. You can die here, or maybe you undertook Morgan's dark ritual and you actually survived. So it's a lot of options here. It's pretty cool. But again, there's a lot of walking and a lot of combat. So there's that. All right, so that's it for Dragon Age Origins. Now we get into Awakening, which is pretty short, not gonna lie. We begin things off with the siege of Vigil's Keep. You arrive at the Grey Warden Castle, Vigil's Keep, find it under talk, under attack by talking darkspawn. We're gonna write this about in a D tier. It's just the start of the thing. It's pretty cool. It's fun. You know, Ogren's here. Introduction to Anders when it's introduction to Anders when Anders was cool. Um, but yeah, I mean, it does a nice job of setting up what will become in the future. But it's just kind of, it's just kind of all right, you know. Next up, we have Last of the Legion. There are basically three quests for Awakening that you follow that take up a bulk of the game. Um, we ain't gonna spend too long on these because they're all kind of average. Last of the Legion. I think I'm gonna put that in D as well. Basically, it's a massive fissure with Darkspawn sighted there. You venture there, you get a new companion, but you find out that the Darkspawn are coming from Dwarven Tig, so you kind of got to figure out a way to close it off. No, it's a it's a brooding area. It's a not a brooding area, a spawn area for them. There's like four brood mothers there popping out Darkspawn, so you got to take it out. Um, Kind of an interesting location. It's another Deep Roads quest. So there's that. A lot of walking, a lot of just fighting. But it is interesting to kind of you kind of find out there's like a dark spawn civil war going on. But you find it out depending on whichever of the three you play first anyway. Um, but yeah, between one called the Mother, which is a hyper advanced brood mother, and then a dark spawn called the Architect, who seems to be one of the original Darkspawn, one of the Magisters who ventured to the Golden City and was cast out. So that's cool. But yeah, Last of the Legion kind of ain't that much. Uh, this is the Righteous Path. No, this is Righteous Path. I forget what this is called. This is the Black Marsh stuff. The Black Marsh and the Black Marsh Undying, and I really, really like this mission. I'm putting it at B. It's the most interesting location of all of them. So like this old abandoned marshlands, and it just has like a bunch of demons and infected animals all around. It is a mission where you take yet another trip into the Fade. But that was pretty cool. You find out like the entire town was put in the Fade, and they're all just under the thumb of just some powerful mage who's been like bathing in blood and like staying young. But it's the most interesting location, and it's like has the most interesting stuff going on. Also, there's like this optional dragon boss fight that is pretty cool too, and has a very unique mechanic to it, where it, like splits into like these spears of like thunder or something, and like you got to take them all out before they group together because I think it heals the dragon again or unleashes an attack or something. I don't know. I never let. I usually do stuff for science to figure out what they do, but I never let those do whatever the heck they're trying to do because the fight's hard enough. But yeah, the most interesting location kind of has the most interesting stuff going on. Like there's like some puzzles there. There's like a bunch of fade barriers when you first arrive there, but when you get to the Fade, you can like take them down. So when you pop back out, they're gone, and you can pick up some interesting gear and some loot. But yeah, I love those. This is always my favorite one, and it's really cool. This is the Righteous Path. Um, I want to put it in D tier because it's also kind of boring. You go to the forest, a road, a trade path has been constantly attacked by elves. But it turns out it's just one elf mage. She was set up by the Darkspawn, interestingly enough, to make it look like humans killed her clan, but it's actually the Darkspawn, and then they made it look like it was humans so she could attack the humans and keep them busy. I want to put it in D tier, but there is a redeeming section of the game that I'm gonna boost that up to C tier, and that's when you get into the architect's laboratory. It's the first time you meet the architect face to face. You find out what he's trying to do. He's actually trying to reverse the calling. No, I mean not the calling. He's trying to reverse the song of the archdemon because he views the darkspawn as like an actual united peoples, like an actual a species that can be something more than just the nightmare fuel monsters that they are for most of the series, honestly. But he's like, as long as the old gods are there and a dark spawn and a dark not a dark spawn. I cannot talk today. And an archdemon can rise, it continuously holds them back because then it just makes them into that. So he's hoping that he can reverse the call of the archdemon to keep the dark spawn from following it and maybe even make them into something more. So that's really interesting, I feel. And meeting the architect for the first time is really cool. Um Also there's this really dope thing where like you get captured so all your gear is gone. So you have to actually venture through a little bit of this stuff with no gear. Like there's like a group of enemies that you got to figure out a way to take out. You got to knock down a tree or something to take them out, so you don't have to actually battle because you don't have any gear. But you find your gear on experiments throughout the level that are literally just like zombified or monster versions of you and the companions you have with you. So I've always thought that was pretty cool. So this will be a D tier, but just that section alone. Also, there's like a double Drake fight at the end, which is pretty cool too. But with that section, I feel like that drags it up to a C tier at least. All right, and then you have so Awaken is interesting as it has sort of like a split quest where you go to the city and the city's under attack by Darkspawn. But a guy believes the city to be gone, and you get a warning that there's a force about to attack the castle called Vigil's Keep that you spend the majority of the game in. So you either have to decide: do you stay and save the city and hope the people you have left at the keep can hold out for themselves, or do you forsake the city and burn it down and go to save Vigil's Keep? So that's what these two quests here are. This is the one where you save Vigil's Keep. This is the one where you save Amaranthine. And honestly, I feel like I usually always save Amaranthine. So I know how this quest is by heart. So I had to look up what happens if you save Vigil's Keep. And honestly, they're basically the same quest. It's just a lot of fighting off Darkspawn. Both of them do a really good job of making it seem like you're fighting from underneath. Like there's not a lot of hope. Um, but they do both do a very good job of that. So because of that, I'm going to put both of them together, and I'm going to put them both in B tier. There's a lot of combat, but it's combat that has a really nice feel to it. Like I said, like the fact that you're like fighting against insurmountable odds, kind of like how the final battle is also really cool. Um, there is a way you can save both though. If you save the city and you've managed to do all necessary side quests to rebuild Vigil's Keep, it can hold out and the people, and it'll be fine. So there is that. All right, and next up we have the final mission titled Depths of Depravity. This one kind of like the Righteous Path quest. I might have put this at a C tier, but there are some things on it that Jesus, get out of here. That drags it up to a B, I feel. And well, mostly it's a pretty basic combat walk-in mission again, but it introduced the Dragonbone Waste, which is a pretty cool, um, it's a pretty cool location in the game. Also, the architect comes back, and now you have the option. He asks for help because it turns out he made the Brood Mother in his experiments to try and uh, get free the Darkspawn from the Archdemon and the old gods. He made her, but she kind of went mad, and that's when the split happened between the two and the two groups of the Talking Darkspawn. So you find that out, but you can either side with the architect in killing uh the brood mother and leave him be to continue what he's doing, or you can just outright kill him and then eventually kill the brood mother. So interesting path there. There's also this little thing where like there's a bunch of like stones you can put on an altar, and it gives you like one ability you can use during the final fight with her. So some pretty cool stuff there. And also, if you side with the architect, he also gives you an ability as well. And I believe his little dwarf friend actually jumps into the fight at the end too to help you out. But yeah, but other than that, it's pretty cool. Like the ending is very the ending is very anticlimactic. You basically stab her in the face, walk off, and then the epilogue starts rolling. So that's about it. But I like it. The locations look very cool. The final fight is actually pretty difficult. It's basically a buffed up broodmother fight from Origins. So that's cool. But yeah, I B tier. It could be a C tier, but the architect stuff drags it up to a B tier. Which you don't know, the architect I feel is one of my favorite things from the Awakening expansion. Um, it seems like we aren't, but I really hope we get eventually get some kind of follow up with all of that. All right, and that is Dragon Age Origins. God, this is an hour long already. I wanted this shit to be like 40. I wanted this shit to be like 40 minutes. All right, now we are on Dragon Age 2. Um, Dragon Age 2 was weird, like I mentioned, because it's split into three acts. So some quests will happen in Act 1, but then things will come back around and actually finish up in Act 2, or quests from Act 2 will happen, but there'll be clues from side quests in Act 1 that will serve to give more context to a main quest in Act 2. So Dragon Age 2 is kind of weird. But like I said, this is just the main quest of Act 1. All right, and start. We begin with the starting quest, which is the destruction of Lothering. We are gonna put this in a C tier. It's all right. Flemeth's updated look is great. I like the little tease they give you of fighting with the Hawk at full power, and then sort of walking it back and giving you like the basic. And it's to do with the fact that Varric acts as an unreliable narrator here. Like when he first, like it starts with him telling the story to Cassandra, to telling the story of the champion to her as they're looking for him. Um, so he starts off by telling the story originally, and it's pretty much you at like full leveled up, and you get to sort of see how strong your Hawk can be. But of course, she calls him out on his BS, and then he does the real story. It's nice to get a nice little touch up to Lothering. It's like one of the very rare connections two has to Origins. If you remember, Lothering was the place you wind up at right after Ostagar. This is the Hawks' hometown. And of course, it's right as the Blight's happening, so right when Lothering is getting destroyed. But it's really cool. The cutscenes are really nice, really showing uh the graphical jump from Origins. But overall, not too much happens here. The most important stuff is the fact that you lose one of your siblings. You have a younger brother and a younger sister. Depending on your class, you lose one of them. But you do meet Aveline, and Flemeth takes you, your sister, your mother, and Aveline to Kirkwall at the end. Your passage to get to Kirkwall. So there's that. But like, it's not terrible, but it ain't great. Next up we have Tranquility. Now it's gonna be difficult because I have to remember all of the crap that happens in these quests because they, like I said, they're in parts. But this is like your first big mission, your first big quest you have to undertake. Once you get past the intro stuff, basically you meet up with Anders. You're trying to undertake this Deep Roads expedition because there could be some money in it. Um, one of the things you need is an entrance into the Deep Roads, and you and Varric decide the best way to do that is to find a Grey Warden, and that Grey Warden is Anders. But of course, he needs your help, and he needs help to free a mage friend of his. But of course, turns out the mage is tranquil. It's a trap. You fight, and you find out that Anders is possessed by Justice now, who was also an awakening as well. Um, oops. We're gonna put that one in C as well. Not terrible, not great. Introduces Anders. I will stand by the fact that Anders 2 sucks in comparison to Anders from Awakening. Like I get it. He's in a place he's now in a spot where the mage struggle is so much larger than it was when he was in Ferelden. But he still comes. He's such a I ain't gonna say it. It's just unbearable. I hate it when that stuff becomes a person's entire character. Like in Awakening, it was there, but he still had character. But I feel like in two, that becomes his character, if that makes sense. I ain't gonna spend too much on it. We're already 10 minutes more than I thought this video was gonna be. What is this? That is Enemies Among Us. Believe. Are y'all seeing this? No, you're not. Okay. I got a cheat sheet because, like I said, I gotta remember so much to remember here. No, that's Active Mercy. Active Mercy. You get hired because there are a bunch of mages trapped in a cave. Uh, a Templar whose name's Thrask asks you for help because he's kind of sympathetic to mages. But of course, you go in there, try to help him. Turns out one of them turns to blood magic, summons demons. You got to kill him, and then you got to kill him, and you got to decide what to do with these mages. Put this in B. This was actually pretty fun, mostly because of the ending, because there's a variety of choices you can make. You can either turn the mages over to the Templars, you can try to trick the Templars but fail, and then you have to kill the Templars, or you can just kill them outright. Or you can successfully trick them, allowing the mages to escape in the end. In the end, though, it doesn't matter because they end up getting caught again anyway. Why? We'll find out in the next video because this comes back around in another quest. But I'll put it in B tier. Like I said, the thing with the Templars is cool, and I love when there's multiple choices of how you can handle stuff. Next up, we have what is this? Black Powder Courtesy, followed by the follow up quest. Actually, Black Powder Promise is the first one. Black Powder Courtesy is the follow up quest. Uh, I really like this quest. I'm gonna put this at A tier. Um, for the dwarf, he wants a deal to get his hands on some Canary explosives. Uh, he doesn't. That's the first part of the quest. You got to kill a bunch of Canary, but it doesn't work. But this is your first introduction to the Arashok in Dragon Age 2, who plays a massive role, especially in the second act. But this is the first time him and Hawk meet face to face. That happens in Act 1. In Act 2, it comes back around because it turns out that the dwarf stole the powder, or he thought he stole the powder. He actually stole a poison gas. But it turns out hey, it links back around to some of your origin stories because turns out that it wasn't him who stole it. He was just set up as the fall guy. Turns out it was an elf who stole it. This is her here. Elf who stole it, and she plans to poison a bunch of Kirkwall and make it look like the Canary did it to ramp up more anti-Canary stuff. But this is a really cool quest because like the poison is actually in the level, so you have to seal the barrels, then you have to fight them, and then you have to. It gets a little repetitive, but when we're talking about Dragon Age 2, any anything that's an interesting or different mechanic is a plus for me, as opposed to everything that happens. I mean, it's another back alley that you've seen 500 times, but this is pretty interesting. Also, you can decide the fate of the dwarf if you want to let him go or kill him. But I always really liked this quest line. The elves' whole thing of like they already lost their history when they were enslaved, and then when they were freed, and then the all the thing was taken down. Now they're losing them to the Canary and the Cune. Uh, Legitimate concerns and things to be upset by, but of course, murdering a bunch of people and blaming it on Canary is not the way to go. All right, next up, this is Enemies Among Us. This involves a conspiracy of a bunch of mages. Uh, I was going to say poisoning. That's not the word I want to use. Um, Making a bunch of Templars be possessed by demons to sow dissent into the ranks. This is D tier. This is a pretty forgettable mission. Um, the a character does come back around, a Templar Kieran, who you have to decide if he is fine and can go back to the Templars, or if he might be possessed, so they don't hire him back. But Overall, kind of a forgettable mission. The main baddie, the crazy ass mage there, is probably the most memorable part of it. It's the part I remember the most, at least. But yeah, kind of a forgettable mission. It does introduce again things that'll come back around for another quest. We'll have another time. Wayward Son. An elf woman asks you to find her son, who is a mage that she kept secret, but she can't keep it secret anymore. So he ran away. C tier. It's a nice little mission. Like this whole section here where you find them and get and the raiders, how you can like have Varric just straight up off the main guy is a it makes for a really cool scene. Or I think a rogue Hawk can do it too. No, yeah, Rogue Hawk can off him immediately. Either a Rogue Hawk or an aggressive Hawk. I forget which. But Varric can spin a story and make him believe like he's like the Viscount's illegitimate son. So that's funny. But yeah, actually, you know what? I'll include the part two of this, which involves he's a dreamer with a very powerful mage who can cross into the Fade while they're dreaming. It's like the same thing Solas is and does, which as I say that, I only just now realized that. Damn. Like I could have just said it for the hell of it, but it's just dawned on me like, wow, that is right. That's just kind of like how Solas is. And we know who Solas is. He's the damn Dreadwolf. He's the damn god. So damn, makes me wonder how powerful this kid actually was or could be. They talk about it in the quest line. Basically, he's a dreamer. He can venture through the fame when he dreams, and he kind of shape it any way he can and control it. Um, but yeah, he's dreaming and he doesn't wake up. So you got to vent your your mandatory into the Fade quest for Dragon Age. You got to venture into the Fade, free him, save him. You can either tell him to go with the Dalish, you can tell him to go to Venter, or you can make him tranquil. So what that means for the future of him, I don't know. Don't know if it's going to get followed up on. All right, let's wrap this up. Like I said, we're already very much, very much longer than I thought this was going to be. What is this? I forget what this called. What is it called? Bit, bit, uh, friends in friends in the low places and lost profits. Basically, basically the entire setup for the first act is you have to get ready to head to this Deep Roads expedition. You need the Deep Roads maps, but you also need gold. You need an X amount of money to buy your way in. And you get that just by doing all the side quests and main quests and gathering up your gold so you can hand it in. But if you happen to have somehow not gotten enough gold, these dwarves come in and offer you a loan, and they give you the right amount of money you need to buy your way in. But you have to pay it back with interest after the expedition. So they'll come back around if you, they'll come back around after that, and you can either pay them back or you can not, and it'll be a fight. It's a good gameplay loop if you just want to earn, if you just want to get some extra money. Like even if you do have enough, once all your quests sort of dry up, this one will become available. So it's not actually like looking at the money you got. It's just like okay, you finish all the quests, you haven't checked off this check for buying your way into this quest just yet. So here's this quest. So you can get the money from them, even though you have enough, just not paying back and kill them in the second act and get yourself some extra money. So there you go. But yeah, D tier. This is a forgettable mission. It just exists as a mechanic to help out players who have not been paying attention or haven't managed their money well. All right, and our last one is our Act One finale quest, which is that actual Deep Roads expedition I was talking about. Every Um, all three acts in Dragon Age 2 end with a pretty big, massive quest. And this is the end for Act 1, the Deep Roads expedition. You venture to the Deep Roads to find some treasure. You get betrayed by Bartrand, Varric's brother, but you find your way out. This new enemy type here, I forget what they're called. Them rock things. Rock wraiths. Is that what they call it? I don't know. Yeah, and honestly, anytime you go to another individual interesting area in Dragon Age 2 is a big plus. Unfortunately, though, this is the first time you go to it, but it's not the it's not the last time though. I'm gonna put this in A tier. Um, spoiler alert for the future, all of the uh act closing quests are all done very, very well. Like there's a really dope boss fight in this with a pretty interesting mechanic to it. That's really dope. Um, but yeah, it's really done. It's really well done. Also, there's the whole thing of the fate of your additional sibling. Like I mentioned, you lose one in the starter quest, but the one that's left alive, there's a pretty big moment that happens for them here as well. If you don't take them on the expedition with you, depending on who it is, they'll join the mages or they'll be forced into the circle or they'll willingly join the Templars. If it's your brother, he'll join the Templars. If it's your sister who's always a mage, she'll be forced to go into the circle. So there's that. If you take them with you though, they'll be infected by the Darkspawn taint. If you don't have Anders with you, they will die in the deep roads from the Darkspawn taint, which is the choice I always pick for some reason. But if you happen to have Anders with you, he'll sense that there are other Grey Wardens in the area, so you'll take them to them, and they will become a Grey Warden. They have to take the joining to try and survive, but they will and they'll survive, and they'll become a Grey Warden. So that's also a really dope, really cool thing. I don't know why I always pick the option to have your sibling die. I don't know. I don't know. The prospect of like Hulk starting his journey, my Hulk starting his journey with all the family he has left, and by the time we get to the end of all that, they're all gone. Spoiler alert if you don't know. We'll get to that in the next episode with his mother. But yeah, so A tier for the Deep Roads expedition. All right. That was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. But there we have it. Our ranking of Dragon Age Origins Awakening and the first act of Dragon Age 2's main quest lines. I'm gonna be honest, I don't sign into these things. So I'll download it, but this probably won't be saved. So when we come back, none of these will be on here. I might bite the bullet and just re-download everything and put them back in their spots as we do part two. But yeah, so there they all are. What do you guys think? Do you agree with some of me? Do you disagree with some of us? I love to hear your takes on some things. Um, I love to see any female Dragon Age fans attack me for ranking the Daily Show super low. But anyway, what do you guys think about my list? Let me know. What do you agree with? What's some of your favorite quests for the Dragon Age games? In part two, of course, we'll be handling acts 2 and 3 of Dragon Age 2, along with the DLCs, and then of course the same thing for Dragon Age Inquisition. That's probably going to be where's my calendar? It's not going to be next. It's not going to be next week. It'll be the week after that. We'll pick this back up. Next week, I'm going to have a video where I kind of have my biggest questions going into the Veil Guard. Birth and both, what the fuck? I just cannot talk today. Both in terms of within the game and just sort of the actual reality of stuff outside the game. So be on the lookout for that. Make sure you subscribe so you can be up to date on when these episodes go up. So yeah, there we have it. Keep tapped in, stay tapped in for Dragon Age month. Like I said, we got more videos coming. All Dragon Age. I also got my news stories for a news drop ready, so I'll be recording that pretty soon. I'll probably record that tomorrow. So this should be up. This will be up by the end of the week. So this will probably be up Friday, and then the news drop will be up over the weekend. So be on the lookout for those. Of course, we got more Dragon Age. We got more Cyberpunk, which I'm slipping. I haven't played them in like 4 days, and I want both to be done before the Veil Guard comes out. So be on the lookout for that. Also, I do plan on streaming the first maybe 2, maybe 3 days if I'm feeling it. Of me playing Dragon Age: The Veil Guard. So literally, when it comes out, I'll plan on picking it up that what is that Saturday, Thursday. whatever day that is. I plan on picking it up that night, so we'll probably have a stream on launch night, the night of 31st, and then I'll pick it up again the next day, probably in the morning, afternoon, the next day there, and we'll continue that, and then we'll probably have a part three the day after that or something, and then probably after that I'll get back to you know we'll just do them off stream. But anywho, I'm not gonna keep you all longer because it's already longer than I wanted it to be already. But anywho, thank you all so much for watching. I very much appreciate it. Make sure like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Facebook, Twitch, Instagram. Even though I don't post shit on there just yet. But anywho, thank you all so much for watching. I very much appreciate it. Until next time, everybody. I will see you all later. Goodbye.